To address the issues facing Tennesseans today, from 10 News, this is Inside Tennessee.
Good morning and welcome to Inside Tennessee. Along with my colleague John North, I'm John Becker, and we are pleased to have Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs with us this morning. He is the mayor of Knox County, running once again to serve in that job. We'll get to election politics momentarily, but first we want to talk about the budget that the mayor has put forward and has received a lot of praise, very little pushback from what I've seen from county leaders thus far. And Mayor, let's start with the school portion of the budget because, as we've talked about before, it makes up about 2/3 of the budget. More than 60 cents of every dollar spent in the county goes directly to schools. And you did sign off on that budget as it was presented to you by the superintendent and the school board. And several million dollars is going to school security. Let's start there and what it will do for school security in our county.
Sure. This budget has allocated an additional $3 million to upgrades to school security, things like fences and video surveillance systems. Student safety is top of mind for Knox County schools. I've been at tabletop exercises where schools have gotten together, all their partners, and basically gone through a scenario such as this or many others happening and saw where the weak points are and immediately addressed those. Here in Knox County, we already have single point of entrance at our schools. We have SSOs, SROs, sheriff's deputies, or police at every school. They all are under video surveillance, and you can't just walk up to one of the schools and just simply walk through the door. It's a much more difficult process than that. Unfortunately, we live in a world where terrible things happen, and they can happen anywhere, seemingly at any time. But I am confident that schools have done a very good job of preemptively addressing these issues, and we've devoted a lot of resources to student safety.
Despite having those security officers and armed security officers in our schools, traditionally the topic comes up, should we arm teachers as well? Your thoughts on that question?
Well, that's really a state issue, not necessarily one that I'd be involved in. My own opinion is if teachers are comfortable in doing so, we should do that. We trust teachers with the lives of our kids in many ways. We trust the futures of our children. We put them in teachers' hands. And I know that one of the thoughts is to have teachers who have served in the military, who are veterans, or currently serving in the reserve, to have the option. And I think that's important too. It's up to the teachers whether they're comfortable or not, and then up to the schools as well. So it's something that if it is brought up, I think that we'd have to have everybody comfortable doing, and also, of course, have to ensure that the proper protocols were in place and those sort of things. But in the end, I don't see why we wouldn't trust teachers, because we trust them with so many other things.
Mayor, as you said, Knox County has been mindful about spending money to boost security about since the last 10 years, since Newtown in December of 2012, I think, to their credit, and they've reacted that way. But I noticed in the shooting this past week down in Texas, they had an armed security guard. They had somebody who I think tried to engage the gunman. And it raises the question, and your opponent, I noticed the other day, called it a sort of a national disgrace in terms of how these things happen. Is there more, do you think, that needs to be done? Is there some kind of a response, some kind of a tactic we're not doing that we should be doing?
Well, I think it all boils down to the why these things happen. We talk a lot about the how, but we don't talk so much about the why, which has to do with things like mental health. Why are young men doing these things? This is really a relatively new phenomenon. They didn't do it when any of us were kids. So I think those are things that we need to talk about at a national level. Here at the local level, I think that we've done as much as we can to really address those. Again, not to say that anything's fail-proof, because it's not. And we also don't want to turn our schools into prisons. That's the balance that we face here, is we want the kids to be secure, we want them to be safe. At the same time, we want to have a comfortable environment that is conducive to learning. And striking that balance can sometimes be very difficult.
So we started talking about the budget. It's $954 million or so. I didn't think we'd get to $1 billion so fast, but here we are. It kind of makes you shake your head. What are the things that you are happiest about, and was there anything that you felt like, I wish I could have done this, but I couldn't get to it?
Well, the things we're happy about, for me, it's not raising taxes. That's what, we always go in with that attitude that we don't want to raise taxes. And we're able to stretch the dollars and make them go further and do some different things by thinking outside the box. And in some cases, cutting back on things which might be superfluous that we would do in another budget year when we did have more money available. We're extremely worried about inflation. And just like every other organization, with the exception of the federal government who can print money, that impacts us as prices go up. We feel the crunch. Certainly like everybody else, as far as our staffs, our teams, keeping up with inflation, that's very difficult. And we've been able to do this in previous years as far as, giving everybody a raise. And that's the one thing is inflation is now outpacing wage growth. So certainly looking forward, we'd like to be in a situation, where we can compensate our people that keeps up with inflation.
You did include a 4% raise for teachers and also an increase for the 2,700 employees within the county that does not include the school system. A key part of that are deputies, and their wages are boosted now to $44,000. You talked specifically in the budget about them wanting to see more money up front. Mayor, where do you think they should be receiving their starting salary if it's not $44,000 right now?
Well, we're actually pretty much where we need to be when we look at the surrounding areas. And the way we were able to achieve that is currently we have two retirement programs, not to get too much in the weeds here. We have two retirement programs for the officers who have been here a while. They're under the UOP, which is a defined benefit program, which means that the county has to basically make up any difference with investments for that. The newer deputies are under the STAR plan, and they actually get a 2-for-1 match. So they, instead of just a 6% of their paycheck going to retirement and getting a 6% match, they get a 12% match off that. So what we did is we moved that 6% back into their take-home pay. So they essentially got a 12% raise for this year. And then that's what we're seeing across the board is people want to get paid more up front, and that's what we're trying to accommodate.
Only about 30 seconds before we've got a break, Mayor, and this is out of the boring but important file. How much is the county leaning on debt, and are you comfortable with the county's debt load right now and having to pay that back?
Sure. Our debt's actually gone down as a percentage of people here in Knox County as a percentage of our revenue. So even though the absolute numbers have gone up in real dollars and adjusted for inflation, it's actually gone down. And of course, we always want to get it lower, but there are things we have to do like build schools. So yeah, I'm comfortable with where it's at currently. We're
going to take a quick break on Inside Tennessee. Back with more with Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs right after this.